Hello, welcome to Lemon Studios, where we talk anything and everything entertainment. I'm, of course, Lemon himself, Zeke Lemon, and this is my top 10 list of movies of 2024. But before we get into that, let's get the house clean out of the way, shall we? Just leave a like, comment below, let me know your top 10 list of 2024. And, of course, hit that subscribe button as it helps me grow into my YouTube career. I would greatly appreciate it. Now, all that out of the way, let's get into it, shall we? So it is that time of year again. It's one of my favorite times of the year. Probably my most favorite time of the year. I always talk about that, New Year's to me is my favorite holiday. Because, it's a time to reflect and, review, right? That's what we do on this channel. We review movies and we review wrestling quite a bit. And, it's just nice to look back and see what was the good, what was the bad. We're only going to focus on the good here of the top 10 list of 2024 for me personally. I am by no means saying this is the end-all be-all top 10 list. So my list is going to be very different from your list. But how I react to movies is going to be very different from you reacting to movies as well. There's going to be some movies on here that are in the honorable mentions I already know, because I have seen some other top 10 lists that I just know, like, how is this not in your top 10, but yet you have this movie in there as well. Like I said, I just have different reactions to it. I do believe that some of these movies that are on my honorable mentions list, or hell, not even on my honorable mentions list, but are really good movies, that are probably just better movies overall from my top 10 list. But what drives me when it comes to film, why I go to the movies, why I fell in love with this, why I wanted to do this type of stuff on YouTube anyway, is because of the emotions. And my top 10 list, and honorable mentions as well, but the top 10 in more particular, is due to just the emotions that came out of me, the experience that I had, and just how it made me feel. That pure escapism, right? Like, you never want to think about your grocery list when you go to the movies. You never want to think about what you have to do next. You never want to think about the bills that you have to pay in order to get on by. You are going to the movies to have a full-on escape. And just to have that, especially within my top 10, and as we continue to climb on, that's really what I had with it. So that's what really drove it. So without further ado, let's get into the honorable mentions, which is just really 11 through 15, just not ranked in particular. We're going to kick off with Terrifier 3. Love what Damien Leone did with it. Think it deserves to be an honorable mention, especially with what he has done with Art the Clown, who to me truly is going to be within that echelon of slashers, with Fred Krueger, with Jason Voorhees, with Michael Myers. The list goes on and on and on. He is now up there with those pioneers. So to me, again, with the pure experience that I had, especially within the finale, with how just bonkers it went, it was scary, it was funny, it was all of these different things, just a very, very fun theatrical experience going to that movie. So that's why it's an honorable mention for me. The Substance is another one. Like I said, there are some movies within the honorable mentions are not even made on the honorable mention list that are probably just better movies overall. Like, if we were to make a top 10 list of just technically made movies, best performed movies, The Substance is on the top 10 list for sure. It should be within very serious Academy Award consideration in a lot of different categories. It's probably on the podium, really. It's probably within the top 3 best made movies of 2024. I cannot deny that. It's just, again, the top 10 just brought bigger reactions out of me, but The Substance definitely deserves to be within the honorable mentions for me. And again, it's within a lot of other people's top 10. And not even just within the top 10. If it ain't gold, it's silver. And I can see that. I honestly respect that. It's just, an honorable mention for me. Nora's another one, and that's mainly due to Mikey Madison, or Mickey Madison. I do not know how to pronounce her name correctly, so I do apologize for that. To me, she is the shoehorned to win Best Leading Actress at the Academy Awards, and rightfully so. And also, it's just a really good movie overall. It really turns the whole Cinderella story on top of his head. It's really funny. Then it gets absolutely crazy towards the end, and the ending button that it ends on really puts the whole movie in perspective. I cannot recommend that movie enough. Longlegs. Y'all know me, I love my horror movies, and when it was coming out, it's like, look, this is going to be the new Silence of the Lambs. I don't think it's necessarily there, but to me, definitely one of the best of 2024. But if there was to be a number 11, if I was to go, this is number 11, this is the movie, and that is Late Night with the Devil. My favorite subgenre when it comes to horror movies is the found footage genre. And after a while, they're kind of all the same, right? But I am always down to watch a found footage movie. Late Night with the Devil is essentially that, and it's a really interesting concept where you're just either watching the show because it takes a place on a late night talk show, or you're seeing a behind the scenes footage of it. Just everything they did with that, and just with how indie it is. Love Late Night with the Devil. I really tried to make it fit within the top 10, but if there was to be a number 11, it would be Late Night with the Devil. Cannot recommend enough. If you have Shudder, put it on there. It's worth the rent as well on Amazon Prime. Hell, it's worth to buy as well. Cannot recommend that movie enough. But now, let's get into the actual top 10 after 5 minutes of talking about the honorable mentions. And we're kicking off with Alien Romulus. See, you're clicking away already if you haven't. Because you're really putting Alien Romulus at number 10 instead of The Substance in there at all. I get it. I do. But again, like I said, what drives me is emotion. And Alien Romulus, as a huge fan of this franchise, so yes, the past does have an indicator within it. I've loved every single Alien movie besides maybe Resurrection and Cube. Cube was a little weird. But I am a huge fan of Prometheus. I'm a huge fan of Covenant. I actually really wanted that trilogy to be finished out. But, we got this instead, which was a hybrid between Alien and Aliens. I do know about the criticism that they go back to the old movies a little too much. I didn't necessarily see that. The only one where I really felt was really shoehorned in was the "get away from her, you bitch" line. But, if you're going to do the others, you got to do them all. But yeah, very scary. It made face huggers even more scarier than they already are. Loved the bonkers ending towards the end. Have come around to it. Learned to love it. So yeah, Alien Romulus to me is number 10. I had an absolutely great time within that. Number 9 to me is Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Again, what? But as a huge fan of Sonic the Hedgehog, man, and Shadow being my favorite of all time, again, it was just pure escapism. And seeing Shadow, voiced by Keanu Reeves, was absolutely perfect. I'm going to remember that chase sequence on the highway for years to come. The dynamic between Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails, and again, just everything they've done with Shadow, absolutely loved it. To me, it absolutely deserves to be a part of my top 10 list because, again, it was that pure escapism. And of course, Jim Carrey, still in the show with being a huge fan of his movie, really growing up on his movies. It was just pure abundance of Jim Carrey and Sonic and Shadow's story all mixed together. Yeah, the humor kind of got in the way of the serious tones a little bit. But overall, absolutely love the movie, and that is why it is number 9. And number 8 is Deadpool and Wolverine. Again, as a huge fan of comic books, as a huge fan of the 20th Century Fox, and all those movies that came before it, I even like Daredevil. I even have a good time with Elektra. And I'm tired of the hate. I like those first Fantastic Four movies. With Chris Evans as Johnny Storm. I absolutely have a ball with those. I don't see what's wrong with those personally. And that's why I used to like the Sputnik universe, because it was a throwback to those types of movies where, we didn't take them too seriously. They were just kind of, run-of-the-mill movies and just nice little cheesy action flicks. And for it to be an overall love letter to 20th Century Fox is why it's on this list. Again, just seeing all these different variants of Wolverines as a fan of comics, finally seeing comic accurate Logan, seeing all these different types of Logan, seeing Hugh Jackman in the yellow suit. Ryan Reynolds does great with the fourth wall breaking and being Deadpool, as we already know, and seeing them together within the TVA and the MCU did a lot of things to me. So that's why it is number 8. But now we move on into number 7. And that is Dune Part 2, a movie I really thought was going to be much higher on the list. And it's actually only one of 2 of the top 10 list that came out within the first 6 months of the movie. This came out in March. It was the first very successful movie as well. And just everything that it did, because I wasn't a huge fan of Dune Part 1. I liked it for what it was, but I just thought it was too slow. And for it to only be half of a movie, because let's just call it what it is, Dune Part 1 is half of a movie, just fell flat for me. And I was like, well, I'll watch Dune Part 2, but it was one of those movies where, this kind of thing felt like a job. I knew Dune Part 2 would be big views, but I really wasn't looking forward to seeing the movie to begin with. Boy, did that change as this movie went on. I'm going to remember that final fight scene for years to come. I'm going to be quoting the Lisa Nagib when people predict things, just like Javier Bardem. Zendaya is great in it. Timothée Chalamet is great in it. Just a great movie overall, and it's so good. It retroactively makes Part 1 so good. I've never rewatched Part 1 after seeing it in 2021. I have watched Dune Part 1 and Dune Part 2 simultaneously at least twice within this year. And it like just got to max. That's how much I enjoyed Dune Part 2, which is why it falls into number 7 on my top 10 list. At number 6, we got Wicked. It was I'm a huge fan of musicals, love musicals for that matter. But for some reason, this was like Dune Part 2. It was kind of like a job movie. Like I just knew like, hey, this is going to get a lot of views. I'd never seen the original Broadway musical. And you know, I like the cast, but I don't know. For some reason, I just wasn't really feeling like seeing the movie. But man, I got tickets to an early screening. It was a fan event and full crowd. One side to me, I'm not even kidding. It was a whole group of friends dressed like the characters from the original Wizard of Oz. I had Dorothy, Scarecrow, the Cowardly Lion, the whole nine, right? And then the other side of me was just this much older group of women and who clearly have watched the show because they were singing along as we went. I have not had a theatrical experience like this since maybe Avengers Endgame, Spider-Man No Way Home, Avengers Infinity War. Like it was that level of good, not in the bad way where it was just constant cheering throughout. After every song, there was applause. When Idina Menzel and Kristen Truelove, I believe is her name, who is the original Glinda and the original Alphaba, when they come out, it was the equivalent to seeing Captain America holding Mjolnir for the first time with how loud their pop was. And it was a big climb too, because if I remember correctly, they said, oh, look, it's the original Oz from the Broadway show. And then again, I'm in a crowd with full of fans. And then you see other people realize that and you start to hear the noise and like they're starting like, oh, well, if he's here, then it's possible. Oh my God, there they are. And then like I'm telling you, the eruption, it's something I'm never going to forget, but it's not just the crowd. The movie is absolutely phenomenal. Now, the only reason why it's 6 and not higher is because it does feel like half a movie. I do feel like I only watched half of it. And also something I'm able to usually do is like, okay, that was really good. Now I got to hold off for a year. I couldn't hold off for a year. That's how good this part 1 was. I was hungry to know everything that happens in Act 2. Now I feel like I can go toe to toe with any Wicked connoisseur that has seen the musical multiple times and can actually follow the conversation quite a bit. That's how good this part 1 was. But again, it's only 6 because, again, if it did feel like a complete movie, then yeah, it's probably contending for that top spot at number 1. But nope, it falls in at number 6. At number 5 is The Wild Robot. Honestly, 5 and 4 can probably flip places depending on my mood. But man, I usually have a rule when it comes to animated movies, right? And that rule is that I usually see it super late. And I mean really, really late. I'm talking 9 o'clock at night or later. Because, you know, in this day and age, parents usually just let the kid watch the movie watch a YouTube video on their phone, or you know, they're letting them run around. You know, they don't have the urge to tell them to sit down anymore. Some parents do, and I respect those parents. Other parents do not. They want to get out of the house. They were interested in seeing the movie, but you know, their kid is just not there yet. Their ADD is really wild or something like that. Sorry if that's offensive. I don't mean it for it to be. So with this movie, why I say that is because I did see this early. It was the only time I was able to see it, or I was just going to miss it. But I was looking forward to seeing this movie. The trailers have looked absolutely amazing. I was like, okay, I'm willing to bite the bullet. And I'm willing to bet this movie's good enough to shut the crowd up, to make the kids listen. Because a movie can be good enough where you go, hey, pay attention to me. And you will. The Wild Robot was that. A bunch of kids, because it was a rocky crowd at the beginning. I was like, oh man, here we go. Throughout the whole entire trailers. And the movie began, it's a little rough. And then as we continue on to build this communal story, you just felt it get more quieter and quieter and quieter. And at some point, everyone was just locked in. And it's a tremendous story. And just with how real it is. And it's a story about community. It's a story about family. If you're a new parent, I really do think you're going to love this movie. Cannot recommend it enough. And I mean, just with the sheer power of what this movie was able to do, it is truly one of the best movies of 2024. It is one of the 2 best animated movies of 2024. It's a toss-up between this and my next one at number 4, which is Inside Out 2, to be contending for Best Animated Feature at the Oscars. It's going to be a toss-up. I'll be happy either way, whichever one wins. But what Inside Out 2 did for me that makes it go up above the Wild Robot today anyway, because again, they can flip, is that to me, I am someone who is driven by anxiety. I mean, you heard me in the beginning of this. I was very much on the defensive, right? Defense, 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 defense to try to justify why this top 10 works. Even though it should just be, hey, this is my top 10, take it or leave it. No, I had to play defense on it because I am anxiety driven. And I really did feel represented in this movie quite a bit. And I just love the whole ending because it's a real true story about growing up and maturing. Because when we're younger, we all let the emotions really control us. Hell, even now, we sometimes let the emotions get the better of us. It's an old expression. My emotions got the best of me. My emotions got the best of me. And this movie is a pure example of that because all the emotions mean well. Like, you hear about the villains like, oh, but they believe that the good guys. So, that's why it makes them interesting. No, anxiety is not a bad guy. She has good intentions. Anxiety can be good. I'm a champion of that. Anxiety can be good if you know how to manage it. Like that moment where she goes, we're going to get up early and practice earlier. That's good. That's a good use of anxiety. And at the end, when they go, Joy, Riley's calling for you, is the best example of maturing. That I'm getting teared up just thinking about it. I cry every single time. I've seen the movie 5 times because true maturing is when you could take control of the emotions and not the emotions control you. And I just think that was just a beautiful way to show it. And again, with just that pure emotion that brings out of me, which is why it goes up to the 4 spot. And hell, honestly, both Inside Out 2 and The Wild Robot can climb up and within the top 5 any given day. Because again, that movie really did do some things to me. And again, felt very, very representative of someone who does believe he is driven by anxiety in one way or the other. Next up on finishing up within the top 3, the bronze is Saturday Night. I am also a big fan of performances. I love Saturday Night Live. I think this was one of the best seasons that they ever put on for 2024. It really does help that it was an election year and we had 2 very memeable candidates that were going against each other. But, going back to the beginning, as someone who, is a little bit of a connoisseur, I watched some of the old episodes on Peacock. And I'm like, yeah, those are pretty good. And I do enjoy that. But to see the very first night, which again, they did take some liberties on. I mean, there's no way that he found the writer minutes before they went live. But I am a huge fan of an underdog story. You got 90 minutes to go. Everything's going against you. Your show is running too long. And as a huge fan of performing as well, who wants to put on shows, who wants to, have the live crowd feed off of them, who really is driven off of that. It was just a very fun experience to see in the theater. I had a great time with this. It's one of the few movies that got a strawberry lemonade within this year. And again, it was just a really good underdog story that really shows, hey man, if you just really believe yourself, you believe in your idea, and when the chips are down, you can make the call and go. I mean, one of my favorite scenes is when he is trimming down the card and someone's going up to him and goes, look, if you can't give me 10 minutes, I'm not going to do it. And he goes, well, sorry, I can't work out. Can you do the 3 minutes? All right, cool. And then he moves on. I'm like, man, what a boss move. Just, again, an amazing movie. I want to own it on the Blu-ray, and it's a movie I want to show other people because, again, it just did that for me. And then within the silver spot is a movie that is all based on dialogue, and that is Heretic. I'm a huge fan of A24. I think they've had a little bit of a down year this year when it comes to their films that they put out, but I do believe they're course correct and do much better. But Heretic to me, as not even that huge of a Hugh Grant fan, but I do enjoy his work. And the 2 young ladies who are going toe to toe with him, it's just them talking the whole time, and for it to be very engaging. And as a religious man myself too, who is open to the debate of it, I'm not saying, we can have the debate and I'm going to be like, oh, you know what? You're right. God isn't real. No, I'm always going to believe that he's there. But I am more than welcome to have a debate with you and to have a dialogue that doesn't go this drastic by any means within Heretic. But, to have those kinds of conversations, I do enjoy those. And I think, on both sides, they make really, really good points. And again, it was just a pure experience that I had within it. And, to show the theme of the movie within the opening line, within the very first scene, it was definitely within one of the first pages of the script. Cannot wait to see the script get released out. I want to read it to see what got cut and what didn't. to have that theme be present throughout the whole movie, all the way through until the end, is just a really true feat for me. Amazing acting performances as well, very tightly directed as well, especially when you're just relying on dialogue and within one location. It can get boring pretty fast, and it never had that 1 star, which is why it finished as silver for me. But within the gold, it is a very recent movie. I was really nervous because I was like thinking, like, well, that's number 1. I was like, well, is it recency bias? I don't know, man. And then, I just kind of think, well, what about this movie? What about this movie? No, but this movie right here just really did something for me. And again, we talk about Saturday Night and performing within a live crowd, and Nosferatu to me was as close to being in a live crowd since maybe Wicked earlier that year. There were multiple times where you could just feel it within the room, that we wanted to cheer and clap for the pure performances that were on display. I mean, Lily Rose Depp, Nicholas Hoult, William Dafoe, Bill Skarsgård, who is completely unrecognizable in this movie as Count Orlok. And as a huge fan of horror movies, and as a huge fan of Robert Eggers, who with this movie here solidified to me that he is truly one of my favorite directors working today, if not my favorite director working today. He has gone 4 for 4, but he's not just 4 for 4. He has hit it out of the park every single time. He hasn't just gotten on base. He's going all around. When he is directing a feature, and this movie to me might be a grand slam. I said at the time when I did my review, I was like, I think The Northman still might be number 1. Man, I don't know, man. The more I think about Nosferatu, and I just saw it again recently, it's going up there for me too, and it's easily to me my favorite movie of 2024. I cannot get it out of my head. It's a movie I just want to study, and that's the main reason, is that it makes me want to. When you're a creator and you want, my main goal is to direct a movie, right? And not just direct a movie, direct multiple movies. I like to say, if Spielberg is Michael Jordan, I will be the LeBron James of directors. And Nosferatu to me is a movie where I just go, God damn, man, let's just go make a movie. Like, it makes me want to pick up the pen. It makes me want to grab the camera and press play. And I'm like, oh wait, I don't have actors. Let me try to figure this all out. It just gets me amped up and makes me want to go out for my dream and try to really fight for it instead of just talking about them. But I do enjoy talking about them. But yeah, those are my top 10 list movies of 2024. You can see them right over here. Again, there are definitely some probably better technical movies that deserve to be on this list. But again, when it comes to just pure emotion out of it, and I hope you understand that out of my explanation of all 10 of these, yeah, sure, The Substance may be a better movie than maybe half of these right here. But, I just couldn't fit it in. Late Night with the Devil, again, might be a little bit better than some of these movies on here. I just couldn't fit it in. These 10 right here. Here I am again, really playing defense on it. My anxiety is going crazy. But this is it, man. This is truly my top 10. I don't regret it. I'm proud of it. And, man, it is just my list. But, again, comment below and let me know your top 10 list of 2024. And leave a like if you made it this far within the video. I do greatly appreciate it. We plan on doing a lot more types of these videos moving forward within 2025. So hit that subscribe button as you try to get to know me a little bit more better, and as we have a lot planned for you heading into the new year. If you have been around with me for this whole year, thank you for being a part of making this my most successful year ever. I'm a very small channel, but 96 or 97 now subscribers within 1 year. The goal was always to do 100 in 1 year. Didn't get that, probably never will, but we're going to keep striving for it. 97-1 to me is a really big time, and also within the watch time as well, which is why I have more confidence to do longer videos like this. But yeah, comment below, let me know your thoughts on this list, and let me know your list as well. And until next time, guys, I'll see you here at Lemon Studios. Thank y'all for watching.